Right. Welcome to this risk and assurance meeting. I declare the meeting open. Do we have any apologies?
Councillor Fouch. I'm happy to move, Councillor.
Brian, seconded, Ken. Okay, here it is. All those in favour? Yes, carried. Any declarations of interest? No declarations of interest. Any urgent business? No urgent business. Anyone in public forum? Anyone online? No one online? Right. Take us to item 1 on the agenda. Confirmation of the minutes of our meeting on the 12th of October, where we trialled the online live streaming.
I'm happy to make a motion.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, John. Those in favour?
Right.
Carried. And that takes us to the first substantive item on the agenda, the risk, health, safety, risk and major projects report. Christina, welcome.
Hello, well, thank you. So I'd like to acknowledge that we have Jocelyn here with us today who will help me with the report, and also acknowledge that we have Linda Till, Blue Waters Manager, here to support with the conversation in the risk area, specifically about an update on Phoenix Dam. So firstly, I wanted to start acknowledge the incident that occurred on Monday involving our contractor striking a power line. So this could have been a fatality. We need to take it really, really seriously. Our report came through to you guys yesterday and this morning as well. But without proper investigation and time, I can't comment on why the clay was put in that position under the power lines, and we failed to address concerns that were raised by the contractors. Again, this could have been a fatality. So my question is how much we want to learn from this incident. So yeah, happy to take some questions on that.
So sorry, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, Christina. Are you asking just questions of that incident or the whole report?
Where you want me to go with this, considering that it could have been a fatality. If I don't get support of where it all began and look at the contract, look at how work is really being done on the ground, if we aren't open to hearing like uncomfortable things and truths and learn about what happened, then it will be an uphill battle for myself.
Right.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, look, if this is an incident that you say is escalating to that critical, then it deserves and warrants a full review. I'm quite sure that as an organisation we're open to this, and actually we've got a responsibility if there's not lessons to be learned. If we don't do the report, we'll never know what lessons are to be learned. The onus is on us to do it. So from my perspective, go for it.
Wayne.
Thanks for the chair. Just support what Mika Doan said, but I'm just wondering, while this is an investigation going, is we best to not say anything until the investigation's done?
Like I said,
not hinder it.
Yeah, it's hard for me to comment on what had actually happened. From our point of view, we've given you the investigation from Clearwater Civil point of view, but we need to look into cultural aspects from our point of view as well. So I can't even comment on anything anyway.
Chris.
Not to say how it happened and how to avoid something like this happening again. It just baffles me that there are actually power lines. We have power lines running across a site where across our tip site anyway. That's something I think that needs to be addressed. both how the incident happened and what can be done to make sure it doesn't happen.
Chris,
Yeah, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't full review of it.
okay, I've got a consensus there. I think for me, the next part of the report, there's some nice positives about culture. But the incidents we have been getting that have caused us the most concern in the time that we've been here is where we have contractors acting, working for us, and our responsibilities go through to that. Making sure that our culture is reflected through the actual behaviours of our contractors, not so much what they. It's easy to put stuff into documents, but it's actually living it. That's the important part of it. So understanding the cultural aspect of this event would be of interest to me.
Happy to take any other questions on other areas of the health and safety part of the report.
Right.
Yeah, for a number, sorry, Christina, the first health and safety update. For a number of years, our previous contractor expressed concerns around health and safety issues. And now we see that there's 70 events that have been reported specifically in the Three Waters Department. Were any of those 70 that are there historical? No, we're just churning through the same ones. Or is this 70 brand new ones?
Well, they're not brand new because they are hazards that have been identified and have sat there for a while. So we've had a change of leadership and a leader who is getting out and about, expecting their staff to identify hazards, and they haven't just happened overnight.
So realistically, what would the time frame be for us to eliminate those 70? Virtually all of the 70.
So some items will take a lot of investment. Some things we can fix quite quickly. We have put these all hazards into a register and are prioritising them, and we are going through, but you know, there are some things that will just take so much investment we have to look at it.
And one other thing, I thought that once a risk is identified, it will be addressed. Are we able to see that list of priorities and timeframes so that if from our perspective, we can elevate spending or change something to assist you? Because obviously, if any of those 70, let's say they were historical, someone that passed away from it, we're rallying them.
Yes, we so if you see on point 4, those items there were the ones that were originally prioritised as high risk from the previous contract. So we did elevate those areas, and we are still working on the gantry. So we're still working on the chlorine sheds, but they're staying on our register until they get removed. So feel assured that they are there, they are being prioritised, and they don't go away until we've done something. But like I said, it takes time.
Just on don't go away. Many of these hazards will always be there. We won't be able to eliminate, which is the go away option, and that exists for some hazards, but for a lot of these, we are only mitigating risk. That's fair.
That's fair, and we're doing a lot of work in the cultural space. So again, we have a leader who is big on health and safety, top of mind, and we're talking about that with the staff, and we're trying to encourage them to be able to respond to dangers on site and do the right thing. Yeah.
Chris.
Through you, Chair. On the Three Waters, the ones that we were just talking about, are they the only ones left of that big list that we had? Oh, good.
Yeah, so we have come a long way. It's been a massive effort. It's been ongoing. It's been, so yeah, congratulations to everyone who's had that on top of everything else that we're going through as well. I would like to see things move faster sometimes, but sometimes we need to look back and think we have actually, you know, achieved quite a lot.
Right. Let's go for it.
Sorry, just one more, sorry. On the health and safety dashboard, yeah, brilliant. I can actually understand it, and if I can, everyone else should be able to. Quite good to be able to look and see where the unsafe act was, or instead of wasting time asking one question.
Thanks for that feedback. Thanks to Jocelyn for creating those easy to read reports. Okay, so if we move into the risk update before I invite Linda Till, the Free Waters Manager, to come up and give us a verbal update on Phoenix Dam, I'd just like to plug or talk about the Clue for Stars program. So we're going through the pilot at the moment, and in my opinion has been really successful. So we are developing our leaders and giving staff the ability to create their own goals and have ownership of their roles and their tasks and the things that they do and how they do it. We've asked for feedback from staff on 2 occasions, and mainly really positive. So it's a long journey and it will take a long time and dedication, but will also help us manage our risks here on number 13 and number 5. So from my opinion, I think that the Clue for Stars framework will support us to minimize, to take those 2 key risks off the table. If there's no questions on there, I'll ask Linda to come with an update on Phoenix Dam.
Forward to seeing the arrows pointing down there next time, near future.
Through you, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, I think if they point down for too long, they get taken off. It's a good thing.
Yes.
So can I ask a question? Non-compliance of legal and policy obligations has gone down. What's happened that's changed? Because legal compliance and our management of it has been top of the list. What's changed?
I can't, off the top of my head, I can't remember, to tell you the truth, Mr. Chairman. We sit around and I know Christina's got the notes, so we have got the notes for it when we've discussed it, because the actual there's a whole page dedicated to that particular one, and it's a lot of information, about where the risk came from, what were the mitigation measures, what were the controls that we've introduced, what's happened. So I'm not going to try and guess, but I know we had a reason for it, and we can certainly provide that note to the committee to explain it.
Would it be fair to say that the transition from the city care contract alleviated some of this?
Legal compliance?
Through you again, Mr. Chairman, yes, but what I'm just saying is that there's a record.
Yeah.
It's not just done arbitrarily, and we can go back to the record of the page, what the change was, which Christina will have, and we can just circulate that.
We have viewing our policies. Did review policies recently.
Just professionally for the work I'm doing, there's been an awful lot of legal change and recent times and trying to keep up with that, and I keep finding bits and pieces appearing in the Local Government Act and things like that, all of the time.
You'll note, Mr. Chairman, I mean, it's not a double up of, you know, the number one risk, or the number two risk.
Yeah.
In that sense, so it's quite separate from that.
Yeah. See them quite simple. Right,
Thank you.
thank you.
What a Phoenix Dam, which seems to be given it a new name, it's the Dam. It's the easiest way to talk about it. Certainly been a feature for us over the last few months as we've worked with ORC and more latterly the inclusion of the owner of the dam. So yes, the work started for us. We had an abatement notice issued earlier in the year. We were a part of that abatement required us to get an impact update. So we've traditionally had an impact report done on the dam, and the dam has been rated as low impact. The report we got, I think it was May, said it was now a high impact dam, and part of that is there are some changing regulations on the horizon as well. And high impact didn't mean something was going to happen to the dam. It was just that if something did happen, what the impact was in terms of the flow of water, and even to the detail that we've got properties mapped that would be impacted, and whether the water would be 0.5 metre high or 1 metre high, or how long it might take. So that was kind of a piece of information that couldn't be read out of context. One of the recommendations from the engineer was to install some piezometers into the face of the dam so that readings can be done, and that work took place in September, and Riley's the engineers that we'd engaged did that. The owner of the dam engaged the same engineering company to get a report done on the potential for failure of the dam, and that report was issued in October. And that report confirmed for the owner, so it was not our report. We've got a copy of it. We got it through their lawyer by requesting it, and we weren't in control of the information, and it appeared to go not very far. But the report confirms that the earthquake doesn't meet the standard for being an earthquake-prone dam, but it did have a flood risk, and that flood was overtopping. Not dam failure, but overtopping the simply because of the level of the spillway and what the catchment area could take. There was still a recommendation, given that obviously it's a 160-year-old dam. It's done pretty well to stay together, I guess, for all of this time. But there is some evidence at the toe of the dam that there is some seepage that appears to be increasing, and it's not a waterfall. It is more like a bubbling brook. I saw some video footage the other day, because the access is such that I haven't been brave enough to get up there because I would probably create an emergency situation. But yeah, there's water flowing, and it joins into the Blue Jacket Creek, which is our source of the water take for the Lawrence supply. So on the back of another engineer going out, engaged by the ORC to have a look, he went out on the 14th of November, so just over a week ago. He has said that the amount of seepage has increased. His words in his report are, I don't believe there is failure imminent, and that a cautious approach should be taken for dewatering. So Port Blakely, the owner, had engaged someone to put in a siphon system. So that is the method of dewatering that's being used. So siphoning water from the dam over the crest and into the creek. And that work was planned to start last Friday. That engineer's visit was on the Tuesday prior. So that work was already in hand and already expected to start. And so the equipment was choppered in because of the difficulty of access. The siphon was built, the first one on Friday, the second one on Saturday, and they're now operating. So they are simply lowering the level of the dam by 3 metres. The dam was holding about 250,000 cubes of water, and the lowering of by 3 metres will take it to about 75,000 cubes. The dam will still, even with that level of water in it, because it has the potential to fill up, still remains a high impact dam in terms of the definition, and the landowner has, it is likely that they will decommission the dam, which means obviously they need to lower the wall to stop it being able to fill up again. They haven't made decisions about when that might happen. The first step was obviously to get the dewatering done. There's daily monitoring going on. The company that set up the siphon system has put into those piezometers that I said were installed. There's 5 of them. They put up some remote monitors into those, and we've got now daily inspections being done between ourselves and Port Blakely of the levels of moisture in the wall. And it doesn't appear to be changing to any great extent. So the wall doesn't look as though that it's going to fail. But there is still a risk, especially with that seepage at the toe, but we're also monitoring that flow. There was some, unfortunately, it appears to be some miscommunication last week. The words imminent failure were thrown around, and unfortunately some actions took place which meant the community became alerted to what was going on, and it wasn't of it. We were keeping things secret. It was more about giving people measured and balanced information about the situation. And we had a comms plan in hand. Obviously, the first step was to inform you as a group, which was done on Friday. But we had to swing into action and put a media release out based on activity that people saw, which included moving the fire engines out of the fire station and moving the ambulances. And Waka Kotahi were also called into the mix. So there's a bit of an investigation going on about how this kind of happened in terms of who passed information to who that perhaps wasn't as correct as they were reading. The words imminent failure were being thrown around, and on the Tuesday prior, an engineer had said, I don't believe there is imminent failure. So someone's taken those words, perhaps used them appropriately.
Bruce, yeah, thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for that, Linda. Just a couple of things. What is the toe of the dam? Where's that? Is that?
So the toe, so it's actually quite a large dam, and there's a small area bottom left-hand corner, is how I describe it. And the toe is the dam is where is the wall, which is all overgrown. It's not like you see a nice smooth slope. It is, you know, the vegetation is quite thick.
So you said there's a like a seepage above and brook. So at what level of the dam is that seepage?
At the base of the toe.
At
the
the
toe
base.
is the bottom. Yeah.
Right.
The water is clear, which from the reports I've read indicates that it's not leaking out the wall of the dam, otherwise it would be muddy because it's clay and mud that's been built with. So it's clear water.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, we had the similar experience with Hospital Creek blood bank. Remember during the big flood, 2 or 3 places there was quite significant water coming out, and at that point it was always really important to be told, and whether you knew whether it was going to be muddy water or clear water was a big distinction in terms of impact or risk, and obviously you knew what we had to do with that blood bank. We had to get it reinstated.
Alison.
Can I just ask the question, is the community being suitably communicated to? So because it got into the media, I would like to think that the community are being almost told, but like what we have been today, whether if there's a concern in the community, do we need to be having public meeting or something to let them know where we're at. It's just my concern, probably.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I know that there were some people that were, at a meeting on Tuesday evening. They appear to be people that live below the dam in that valley area. And some information, more information was given to them, but I'm not sure exactly what they were told, but they are certainly concerned because they had people knocking on their doors and asking how many people are in the house, and that's where some increased level of alarm has grown.
That's almost what I'm seeing, and if there's a way to bring that back, minimise it. I don't know.
I think, that's probably something we need to talk to our comms team about, do we need to actually have a comm directly for people? Interestingly, the media release said the other day that, he wanted people to stay away because it's heavy equipment and all sorts. And apparently there was so many sightseers up there on Saturday. According to the contractor that was on site, they put up some hazard tape, but that didn't seem to keep people away.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
We did intend to have a comms plan, which has to be amended now by the events that occurred in terms of those actions that have been reported occurring on Friday and over the weekend. So yes, we expect that. One of the issues is that we do have to work with the regional council and obviously the landowner, because we aren't the landowner and they're not the dam owner, on joint communications and joint plans. We haven't yet got to the bottom of officially acknowledging, how the events actually occurred. And if you're going to speak to the community, they will be asking the questions, how did this go wrong or whatever? And we have to have that answer, right? And we need to get agreement between the parties that we're very clear about that, and then get agreement between the parties on. So I believe it's got some urgency, but I'm still currently in the process of getting some answers from other parties.
Thanks for that.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The references to the increase in leakage haven't been quantified, and obviously if it's a 2% increase, it's a lot different. 300% increase. What's the increase?
So the measures are not very scientific because of the way that it is, the seepage works. It's not something you can put a flow meter on like we can with the other things, or the flow in the creek. It is mainly eyeball, so subjective, I guess, to some extent. Unfortunately, the engineer from Riley's, who's become intimately familiar with the dam because he spent so much time there and he's done all of the scientific kind of analysis, is on annual leave until December. So that's where a different pair of eyes has gone to have a look. They have been doing some measuring in a plastic jug, but that's not very scientific either, because you've got 7 points where it's seeping out. I've seen video footage of that. It's still running out, onto the ground, and then it joins the Blue Jacket Creek, so it hasn't formed its own waterway. It's, just meandering down the hill and joining in the creek. I think if it was forceful, then it may actually start its own channel.
Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Linda, how long was it going to take to dewater, to siphon off down to?
So
75,000.
So lower the level by 3 meters. That's what they're looking for. So the report that was done by Riley's suggested that if you siphon 47 litres a second off the dam, that would be achieved in 3 to 4 months. And suggested that if you wanted to do it faster, then you could put in a second siphon. So the second siphon has gone in. A reading that I saw yesterday afternoon that was reported was that it's running at 68 litres a second from both the siphons. So it'll take less than that. But at the beginning of the week, someone threw out 15 days. Well, the engineer said 3 to 4 months, 15 days. Seems largely different. But I think this is the difference in, we're dealing with kind of a number of people And we've now started meeting as a group, so we have all the same information being shared.
And do
Which is important.
we know what the flow rate coming into the dam at the Poppins?
No, because that's coming from all the little streams and different catchments. There is another stream called, that feeds the dam at the top, called Bungtown Creek. We've got a consent to take water from Bungtown Creek. We traditionally only do that as needed in the summer to supplement the flow from the dam. And that is, there's a siphon that diverts some of the Bungtown Creek flow around the side, so we call it the outer race, and puts that into Blue Jacket. So one of the things that we need to be mindful of is when the siphon, when it's reached 75,000, so currently the spillway is sitting up here and the water level's here, how will our water get into Blue Jacket Creek? So that's something we'll need to get the engineers to help with. The siphons are running away from the spillway, and at some stage, I guess they may turn at least one of them off as they start to slow the flow down as they reach the 75,000.
And at the 75,000 cubes, what's sort of the risk? So what effect would that have if there was dam failure?
We haven't seen a report. I believe that someone has already started perhaps modelling that, because that would be 75,000 cubes of water and the dam failed, catastrophic failure. Not that that has been predicted anywhere, but if that the worst were to happen, what would that look like in terms of impact? But we haven't seen that report.
Thank you.
Linda,
Simon,
yeah, no. In a real dry summer, how important is that dam if it's large to 75,000? Is there any risk to Lawrence running out of water?
I guess there's always that risk, which is why we've had the Bungtown Creek siphon that we use in summer to supplement the flow. We still have to work out how we're going to get the 75,000. That should be enough water, because the flow would normally happen, and in summer the dam level lowered anyway. So the spillway, a very scientific method of using stones. So in winter we put stones over the spillway because we don't need the flow to be strong. Our consent allows us to take 20 litres a second off the creek. And so in summer when it's drier and the level drops, we just take the stones out of the spillway. But now that spillway there's a distance. So it either means getting a rock break the spillway, lowering it.
Yeah. Hopefully you've only got one summer to make it work.
Yes, I know. If it's been 1 year later, we'd be a bit more relaxed about things like that, but that's Murphy's Law, isn't it?
thank you. That takes us back to the risk dashboard. Lee, is that right? Anything?
Yeah, and is there any other questions in relation to the risk update? Or can we move on to major projects?
There are 5 water treatment plants with 4 water notices. Is that temporary or permanent? Until work is done.
What's your definition of permanent?
Rephrase, long term.
Mr. Chair, we've got two that current actions to move to towards removing water notices. So others won't be able to be removed until we get Greenfields Wall, for example.
So these traditionally had water. Or was this recent?
No, some of our schemes have been on board with others. Substantial.
Yep. And then this next one, this aluminium one, that's the new test. What does advisory mean?
That's from Tamara Arawai in the form of a statutory right notice stand. So it's described as an advisory, and in this particular instance, it was because aluminium wasn't deemed a long-term health risk. We continue to have to advise of the fact that there are high aluminium levels in some of the networks until we get them cleared. So we're still under aluminium advisory
So it's
for some networks.
so there's an expectation we clear it at some point.
Yes, and there's active work being done to do that, and we have actually cleared some aluminium advisory.
Yeah.
And for example, we are looking specifically, if you look at Waihala Township, just on the end of one scheme, the scheme itself, except Waihala, is we believe clear, and we're looking at ways in which we might be able to separate the two while we're working on Waihala, but clearing an advisory for the rest of the scheme. But at the moment, the whole scheme's got. So yeah, there's active work.
Thank you, Brian, sorry.
Yeah, just to answer the first question, Mr. Chair, when the Rural Supply Technical Working Group looked at all the rural water schemes in New Zealand, some 75,000 of them, it showed the anomaly that Clutha has in the fact that there's 70 mixed-use water schemes in New Zealand and we have 12 of them. So we are a real outlier in the fact that our rural water schemes supply towns. But there's always been the historical expectation that the precedence is quantity over quality. And so in order to supply the 2.1 million stock, along with the 19,000 or whatever human beings, that system on the day it was built, the way it was designed was when things are, water's dirty, there isn't enough, you short circuit the system. So now we're faced with the fact that Tamatarawa don't like that. So we're going to try and turn a pig into an aeroplane. And that's where we're at. So the scheme is doing exactly what it was built to do, exactly what it was designed to do, and time hasn't been its friend.
That's not entirely correct. Some of those treatment plants have been upgraded and there's potential spent on them. Yeah, it's still involved.
My other question, fluoride dosing is a requirement from the Ministry of Health these days.
Some councils have had instructions on that. I don't believe we are one of those councils.
Yes, quite a list of things also have that instruction. Okay, so it's voluntary.
No, I mean, our issue was we had problems with the delivery of fluoride into the system at one point. We've always had a policy to fluoridate where we had historically fluoridated, and there's an expectation that we continue to fluoridate where we historically fluoridated, and we're just still trying to finalise to actually complete that process.
So next month we've got a project coming down to train our people, check the equipment, so I think it's been operating since September 2019. Service, if you like. So they'll be servicing it and providing training on site. And yeah, we've only got it at 4 sites.
Thank you.
Can I ask a
Yeah.
question around that? If it isn't operating by the end of December, I would like to think that our communities advise that their water isn't fluoridated, because I mean, it's an expectation. Most out there won't even know that it isn't happening. So I mean, fine if it is definitely going to happen in December, but if not, I believe community should know.
On the building control accreditation, they came back in October and identified new non-compliance. Is that new compliance regulation that we have to apply to, or is that an existing matter that we have failed on that we previously passed?
Just through this chair, I mean, I have an answer, just be careful in what I say, because
Appreciate that.
I'm not a champion of how these how IANS is working with the building control authorities and how these audits and the new audit findings keep coming up. And simple examples, things that had been passed previously are now no longer passing. So there's inconsistencies with that, and it just opens up a can of worms. I really got into it, Mr. Chairman. We will always be very concerned to ensure that we achieve accreditation, but we're not happy at the accreditation process. I don't know of people in the industry that are happy with the accreditation process and how it happens, but we will always meet our accreditation.
Next.
Okay, so on page 18, major projects category A risk register update. Have to take the report as read, and if there's any questions.
So, Brian,
You're just checking Taylor Parker's still on the move in November. Because the public perception, it's getting a bit manky, long grass, it's just rubbing salt into the wound, so I would imagine. So just want to make sure, we said it was going to be end of November, we're now at the end of November, is it moving?
We can take that through to service to the room, Mr. Chairman.
okay. With that. So this whole agenda from here on in tells a concerning financial story. Every single one of these has got a risk. In many cases, a high risk of not meeting budget. And then we come to the financial report, and we're already overspending our budgets, and then we go to the Treasury report, and our investments are less, and our debt costs are more. So it's a lot of stuff in this report stacking up on top of each other. So I'll raise that overview here with this one, because a lot of these statements in here about the risks are statements, they're very passive statements of we are monitoring. And in the context of the financial position we're in the context of 3 years now of deficit budgeting, well, not rephrase, not deficit results, not budgeting. We budgeted for surplus, but we didn't achieve a surplus. To what extent are we satisfied that we are doing enough to manage our budget, manage our projects? Maybe we have to do less if the prices are going up in order to stay within. At what point does our financial resilience run out? Those sorts of questions. And then what are our mitigations? What are we doing to ensure that we manage cost escalations in our contracts? that we are getting the best prices, and things like that. One of the things that I wonder about is whether our processes are supporting getting the right outcomes. If we are very annually focused in our projects, then we staff wait for approval in an annual plan and then start the process of working on the asset. So there's no ability to start putting in contracts and protecting pricing, for example. If you went on a 3-year rolling process and allow management to start earlier for a project, start planning for a project earlier and getting things all lined up sooner, for example, would we get a better chance of managing risk and change in financials matters and things like that, rather than an annual process driven by accounting rules, rather than what's necessarily best for engineering work. So I'm just raising a whole lot of questions. I'm not expecting answers today, but I'm feeling that we're at a point that we need to look to do something different. Brian.
Couldn't agree more, Mr. Chair. Every single financial criteria in our world has changed, and we are staying the same as a governance group. It falls on us we're going to start looking at different ways and at least consider, because I've been in politics since 1998, and for the first time ever, especially around Three Waters, I don't see a way forward. There is no way forward. We're overwhelmed, and consequently, that one Three Waters will trigger so many the ripple effect. It's we're in uncharted water, and yet we're still saving the first from its day.
Mr. Chairman, just about 3 points I probably want to make.
Yeah.
Is you mentioned about the deficits and things like that, and suggested or observed that maybe that we've been quite reactive about things. I'd probably challenge it the other way and say actually the deficits are expected and known by assumptions and decisions that we took, including the transfer of Three Waters, and also the decision around the transition of the Three Waters contract externally to internally. None of our budgets were based on, none of our actual budgets, because there are lags of a year each time, are based on that. And where we've picked that up, so that was deliberate. We made deliberate decisions about putting off costs and accepting costs on the assumption that we were going to be losing Three Waters and things were going to change once that was transitioned. We deliberately, and that was planned, and it was based on assumptions of the day, quite correctly, and a number of other councils have done the same. So the position we're in, where we've got these deficits arising from primarily, initially it was the increased costs of the Three Waters contract, and then subsequent decisions were taken to bring it in-house, and also the expectation that things were going to be transferred. And we didn't put rates up, we kept them down as a consequence on that assumption. So those were planned, and those are the consequences of what we planned. And I've highlighted that to council, that this is where we are. So this LTP hasn't shied away from that. This LTP is highlighting that actions have to be taken as a consequence of those 3 years, and these need to be addressed, because as I said to Sharon, we can't be, I totally agree, we're not intending that this council should be deficit budgeting. We need to be budgeting to be addressing the last 3 years and the consequent 10 to 30 years, 10 to 50 years And this LTP has to be the start point for that, in those decisions. So we will be going through that in a planned way, and we will be addressing those situations. So that's what I sort of wanted to respond around that. Very real issues, but understood how those arrived, and also that we are obviously looking to plan through this process to address those issues.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, in respect to this isn't a criticism of staff. We have known and been told about this all through the journey. So the information has been available. My point is it can't stay like this and it needs to be corrected, and that's just what you've said. Brian?
With you on that too, I'm always just presuming, but I'm just thinking I'd better clarify. When we run a deficit, obviously it's got to be accounted for somewhere in the book, Sharon. Has that in recent times just gone on to debt? Is that where the deficit comes debt? That's the only place it can be. There's never been a reserve that's paid for a deficit. There's no. There is.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There has been each year we bring a paper to the council or come to the next council meeting with the surplus and deficit from the previous year following the adoption of the annual report. And so when we bring that, we suggest ways of funding it. And last year we had a deficit from Three Waters, which we funded via a loan, and some from stormwater reserves. And we have used the general reserve in the past, and when we make a surplus, we also put that into the general reserve. So it's, yeah.
So you know how there's a report coming that's going, because we've got $73 million of debt, and just over half of it is Three Waters, and we were going to break down what the others were. Are you able to, rather than just saying a deficit, the total amount, to show the deficits from the deficit of that, rather than just $10 million of deficit over the last 3 years or whatever it is? Can you please show it?
Because the report will come in and it'll say this activity, say Parks did this, it maybe Mira didn't, Waters did this.
Yeah, so that we can see that not only is it a deficit, but what is it deficit? That'd be real handy, because this is the new world we're heading into, and it's not a space that my brain's gone into.
Yeah, so I've talked about the financial strategy graphs and how important and useful they are, and Sharon's in the process of building a system that will be able to do that, because that's going to fade. One of the things the accounting deficit has is it has non-cash matters in there, things that aren't every day. It has capital revenue in there and gains and losses and things like that. What's really important is that we're funding the everyday costs of the business, and certainly bringing in Three Waters into the business was not an everyday cost. It was an exceptional matter, but the everyday costs of running the business, it's what, in terms of mums and dads at homes, it's the buying of the groceries, the paying for the electricity, all those things that you have to do to run a household on a day-to-day basis. The financial strategy will strip down to focus on that. I've done an analysis from some stats data that shows that all the major metros except for one is not balancing the books on those everyday costs. So it's not like we're alone. In fact, we're in a really good position given the resilience we've built up in our reserves and in our investment fund and so on in that regard. But we don't want to fall down on that and join the rest of them. Right. So that covers off a number of things in the agenda, but they all come together. Thank you, Christina. And we better receive Christina's report. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Bruce. It's nice and easy to do, Bruce. And all those in favour, all those against, carried. And that takes us to Greg's report. Treasury Management Report, page 22. Welcome, Greg. We've set you up for a hiding.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I'll start off with reporting there. Nico's portfolio for October. So we had a $414,000 loss in October. It's also management fees of 39K deducted. So that's now made year-to-date cumulative return on investment 0.49%. That's 5 periods. In terms of the LGK borrowings, by additional $7 million during October, so that means that total debt to 86.8 million. We did include suggestion last time about getting better the different debt types and interest rates. So from pages 28 to 32, we've got some graphs there just plotting what the balances are, interest rates. Just June 2023, June comparison. Just want to clarify page 32, slight formatting issue on the right-hand side axis. So that should be percentages, same as it is in previous two graphs. So bring that next time. And also, yes, we've included the quarterly reports from Bancorp and Melville Jessup Weaver. After that, I've just summarised a couple of points that I thought could be important to note. Just generally speaking, on the New Zealand Treasury's up-year economic fiscal update, suggesting businesses should be slower growing economy interest rates. June should be tighter labor market. It's for us, I guess, it's just that yes, obviously those rates have risk a lot. Started by what's possible rate. So let's get a moment. Just a couple of notes from the Melville Jessup Weaver report, just specific to bonds, which make up about 4%. A couple of bad years, bonds are expected to perform better in 2023, and then from year to date so far, results have fallen short of those expectations. Currency have been positive by 7%. Just cash, which is about $3 million. It's been king and essentially the only asset class to hide deposit returns for the quarter. Bonds continue to be seen as a short policy, potential to appreciate value as long as we struggle. Take this as we need. Questions or discussion?
It's good, thanks, Greg. All right, Brian.
Can I say what a great report, Greg? I really did appreciate it. And that one that showed the freeboard that we've got in our debt, we please keep coming up with those big bold ones, because I think that's one that's going to be crucial in the short to medium term. But thank you for that.
So what's our debt limit?
33 million more.
Got it. Through you, Mr. Chair. Currently, it's 96 million. It's 175% of our revenue. And if we base it on what we budgeted for 23-24 year, it's 96.
So we're at 86 million now. Yeah, so we've got $10 million of freeboard. That's our resilience. Yes.
On page 36, it shows 33.47 headroom.
Mr. Chair, that's Miles's report. That is to the end of September as well. That includes an overdraft facility that we have, as well as some investments and stuff like that.
So in 1 month, it went from 33 million headroom to 12 million.
Miles's headroom includes other things. So you got.
Does the debt to revenue ratio for LGFA include the bank fund, bank submitted facility?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we also have a local, which is a multi-option credit line with Westpac, where we can at short notice get $3 million.
One of those things that, the world is changing. Remember when, for those that were here when we first went to Nico, and we were talking about, some councils, surely not, actually get to their debt max. It was just inconceivable that any council in New Zealand could ever get to their debt max, so we don't worry about it. It's just the world is changing and we've got to be ever mindful.
Simon,
Yeah, through the chair, page 23 on the treasury dashboard, you've got the 86 million, sorry, in debt. Then you've also got the year-end budgeted balance of 111 million. So that's the expected. So you were told we've got a cap at the moment of 96 million, so.
Greg, you were gonna,
So through this Chair, that's the budget.
So what is the current year-end budget? What's your balance for the end of the year, the total debt
forecast.
forecast?
It's
So, yeah, that's what, so we're just being told we've got 96
Well,
million.
that doesn't work, does it? Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's why when we bring, which we hope to have today, but we're not in a position to do that, when we were bringing the financial strategy graphs, that will forecast the end of this year. That's straight out of the long-term plan where everything, as you'll appreciate, moves. You don't do your capital stuff. It's all quite different. So when we bring the financial strategy graphs, we've been in a better position to show you currently where we're tracking and make decisions then around where it sits.
We'll be talking more about this through you, Mr. Chair, because obviously I can understand the inconsistency question, and certainly, if it's nearly the end of November, so we've still got 6 months plus of financial year, and if the suggestion is that we've only got $10 million of debt to call on for 6 months because of the 96. Clearly, that's a question that we need to resolve. We'll just resolve that internally and come back with clarity around where that's at. Because if we've brought in 17 million of new debt net, this is rollover and repay, 17 million new debt in 5 months. That 10 million doesn't match, does it? We would have to make some serious decisions around cash flow and projects. So we just need to, we'll resolve that ourselves, come back and bring you a clearer picture. And so we need to be clearer for you and for ourselves rather than ask the questions that actually aren't good answered. Discussion.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, it's just occurred to me that the LGFA calculation is net debt. Pretty certain the investment are offset from that. So the debt capacity is a lot higher
So we can add that.
than that 97.
Nico onto the.
Yeah, we'll double check that. But
A lot of us
suddenly caught us. Yeah. I had John, I think. Sorry, Brian.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just wondering with your experience, if you've heard anything that may shine a light on a concern I have. Obviously, with the three waters now changing and every council is going to be in the same position as this, there's whispers coming out that there's breaches of debt ceiling from various councils. And under LGFA, if a council breaches, we all bail them out. Have your experience around the haunts, are you hearing of any imminent issues? Because obviously we're part of LGFA. If someone goes under, our books are impacted again.
Everything I'm hearing is that no one knows. So until we know something, I mean, any group that's out there doing calculations are making assumptions on what government will do, and I'm still struggling to work out who the government is yet.
Yeah, and three words, Mr. Chair, there's two different things. You know, one is, or there's two aspects to it. One is statutory breach of your requirements around revenue to debt. A breach in the rules around LGFA, around what you can, how you can get money, and their particular requirements around debt to revenue. Right, so it's two different things. Then the third thing, totally separately, is how a council, could become bankrupt, and what do you mean by that? Which is totally different again, because that just relies on rates revenue, and that. So what I'm trying to say is the description of the two breaches are not the same as worrying about a council being called upon, and in that sense. So they're quite separate.
But Steve, when we signed up LGFA, there was definitely a clause that was never happened. I don't know what the implications are. I don't know what triggers it. So that to me is just a risk that's out there, and no one's quantifying. Like LGFA definitely said, if something happens, we all bail in on help. I don't know what that point is.
If a council was in breach of its debt limits, then it has to get finance somewhere else. And so the LGFA, there's no risk to us should they repay LGFA. The risk would be if they've done it.
And the only other issue is if you haven't got the funds to service your LGFA debt, right? But the answer to that is council always has funds because council just rates, and we keep reminding everybody about commissioners that just get in and do it because they don't have any political issues, or like in Kaipara, which worked with commissioners, they just came in. Put the rates up to what they had to be, which was 20-30% or some horrendous amount, just to make so that they've got the revenue. And there was a rates revolt, and the courts keep agreeing time and time again. There's no ability to revolt on your rates, and you have to pay your rates and you can always, take it out of the property in there. So that's why the LGFA says. There's a whole raft of things that had to go before you go there, and getting council getting to a position where they can't find any debt, they can't find any revenue, and they can't pay off the LGFA loan, so they're in breach of the loan. There are other options before LGFA then calls on you.
Brent.
I've been looking at this for a wee while as an outsider coming in on news of this. I know what I'm trying to do on my farm right now, and everything that I buy is dropping. And I tell you, as a council, we got a big problem because we need to finish the projects that are started now because we're already committed to them, right? But the ones that haven't been started, i.e., that Swinthorne Library in Milton, it needs to go. We need to make some really hard decisions to start cutting the cloth, because the way I look at it is, the Milton poll, take as one example, the community only had to front up to $2 million, whereas the council as a whole, we're looking at having to borrow the 16 million. We don't know what the finished cost is, and that figure should be around the other way. If the community wants a new pool, then the council will supply a wee bit of seeding funding, but it shouldn't be funding the lion's share of it.
That'll make for an interesting LTP debate. That's what the LTP process is for, and that's the comments that Steve and I made about deficit budgeting come into that equation. Interesting. I'm looking at page 28 of the report, and this is one of the new tables that gives you the clarity. If you have a look at the third and the sixth line down, you've got interest at 0.7% and 0.78%. And our advisor from Bancorp took great delight in telling us many times how we were the lowest priced council in the country. And you look at what we're borrowing at now, and we've got debt out to, it's not on that page, on page 29, we've got debt out to 2029 at 6.5% in the top right-hand corner of that graph. So I know that we're not the lowest interest rate, average interest rate council in the country now. And as competitors that he was speaking to in a better position than we are. And so it's a bit of a mystery to me how we didn't capitalise on our very low interest rates. And I think we need to be really careful about our decisions about how we spread our interest rate risk management over a period of time. If we look at report page 37, it's actually not a lot clearer. It's in the dashboard. The debt and cover report in the top left-hand column of page 37. It shows our fixed debt is the blue area, and our debt that we have swaps on, which was floating debt that we bought, and then we bought contracts to fix that debt, is in swaps, is the area in the green, and we're sitting right at the bottom of between those two red lines, and on the edge of our policy. All of this is a risk decision, and just talking to Sharon and team earlier, and I think we need to strengthen our processes in this volatile market. We need to be a bit closer to this, and because we all have a vested interest. There's nothing more guaranteed than any forecasting of interest rates will be wrong. And so what will happen is you'll end up with interest rates dropping, and we're carrying interest at 6.5% in the future, and you'll end up with big losses on your P&L coming through. Not cash losses, but they're losses in value of these forward contracts you've got, stuff like that. So we need to have knowledge of that stuff. So I think I want to have a discussion about processes to have a more collective involvement in making some of these decisions that are in the millions of dollars. Every single one of these decisions, and the smallest decision here is $2 million. The collective decision here is $86 million. And I think just at the moment, we haven't got the balance of strategy and involvement right in that space.
Mr. Chairman, surely that would come through in the financial strategy and treasury policy in terms of research and debate on these policy parameters which we're currently meeting.
Yes, and we need to make sure that we're complying with our policy. I'm not saying we're not complying with our process part of it.
No, but I understand what I'm trying to say is that if there's a suggestion that we need to do a whole lot more, should we do more homework, prudent homework on whether or not the policy still stands or should be amended, the strategy, then, we already gone through the LTP process and we're proposing to make significant changes.
I don't know. I'm not saying the policy's wrong. I'm saying that are our practices in applying the policy our best practices, given that we're in a much more volatile market. So when the market's not volatile, then you would have meetings less often, for example. When the market's volatile, you can still have the same meetings that are in the policy, just more often. that's all sort of thinking.
Mr.
Brian?
Yeah, I agree that we've got to have rigor around setting a strategy, but it would make me nervous if the political, I want to leave it up to the experts. I don't feel that I'm particularly qualified in any way to start making the calls, so I think we set the strategy and we leave it up to the experts and the team to. I get it that times are changing, so we should possibly review the strategy. But I wouldn't want to poke the nose too much in there pretending I'm an expert.
I mean, well, I know what you were suggesting it, Mr. Chairman. I know we did discuss, rates are really low, and that, so why don't we just take out a whole lot more debt, and that. But then we all agreed that we weren't in the game of, speculating, and then, we would have lost a lot of money on the investment accounts if we'd put it into there, instead, with the debt. So, we knew we weren't going to do that side of things, and that. But I'm interested in you're describing sort of polishing the process, to be more effective. And I would certainly welcome the experts having a view on that, because that's what we have them. Because I'm not the expert on this. Have we got our swaps correct, and and what more can we do to polish? I mean, to me that's a question for absolutely the experts around what we could or should do. And there's no harm, never a harm in asking them to give us their view on, is it performing appropriately, or is there more we can do in the current situation? And I think that's just a valid question to put to the experts and bring back.
Yeah, possibly whether given that our debt is now a substantial amount of money, whether as we do with our investment portfolio, we have the expert advice from Nico as well as the expert advice from Michael Jeffett. So it might be that we add to that, but that's just throwing out something that we need to look at.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I was hoping to have Miles Bancorp here today, but he was unavailable. So I've been talking to Chairman, and we're going to potentially bring him to the next council meeting. And Chair's going to zoom in if we can line that up, so that he can give us an update.
Not with citizenship. Brian?
Yeah, there have been some that have accused us of having a $44 million debt and $31 million that we speculate through Nico. So if you took a real clinical look at where we are, you can't say that we're not speculating, because at the moment we've got the debt that's more than the investment. That's where we are. World's changed.
You're right, Simon. You had your hand up one moment there.
That's okay.
Yep, good. Right. With no other no discussion on the report, we'll thank you, Greg, and receive the report. Thank you, John. Thank you, Bruce. Those in favour, those against, carried. Trey and Sharon, financial, what do we do this? Annual planning performance monitoring.
Good everybody. Suppose we'll start with the management accounts, and I'm just happy to take those as read. Do you have any questions?
I'll just reinforce what I said early on. Interest revenue in D budgeted to be 250, received $1,000 of revenue, and operating expenditure F is $1.6 million over at the time, and then finance costs budgeted at 477 and currently 807, and we are under our budgeted debt level. So that's with less debt in there. So those were three figures that I picked out as part of my story that I talked about at the start of the meeting.
Right then, so we'll move to the non-financial monitoring. I'm happy to take it as read, but I'll add a few points. Everyone should have gotten the photo and facto testing. So we'll have Karen to come through to answer any questions that you guys might have for that. The other stuff, I'm just seeking a bit of guidance on what I deem as an anomaly. So at the moment, for the percentages, it's plus minus 25%, and for the totals, it's ×2. So if you guys are happy with what I deem as an anomaly, I'll stick with that and only give commentary to those ones. But if you want me to change that, I'm happy to incorporate that and give you more commentary or less, depending. Then also with integration with Asset Finder for the median funds, I do have some data now. I didn't have it at the time of the agenda coming out. It's a bit ugly, so I'm going to have to do some stuff to manipulate it to get it to a readable standard. We only get dates, we don't have times. This is from September previous. Going forward now, we'll have times, so I should be able to give you exact measures, but until September, I can give you estimates because it'll just say it's coming on the 1st of July, there'll be no time. I'll assume the time of start of business, or when they turn up to the site, I'll assume they've turned up at 12 o'clock. I'll assume they finished at the end of the day. So it won't be 100% accurate, but it will be better than nothing, essentially. But yeah, other than those, happy to take questions.
Thank you, Trey. Those in favour? Oh, sorry. Better have a mover and second first. Make it a bit easier.
Sorry, I did have one more point with the photo and back though. This report that I've given you. Are you guys happy for this to go on the agenda as it is going forward? Or would you like me to change it? Yeah.
I think it's good, Trey.
Yes.
Clear cut what's happening.
You still reading, John?
No.
No, okay. All right, mover and seconder, please. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Brian. Those in favour? Those against. Thank you, Trey.
Thank you.
That takes us to Darren's audit recommendation monitoring report on page 73.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this report has been updated since we adopted the annual report and got our new final audit recommendations. We've written in here, we have the observation and the recommendation come from audit, and the response is what we say to audit at the time they send it to us. And then the 23-24 status, just for clarity, is what we're currently doing now. So move through that. Yeah, we're going to make a couple of modifications to this. I've had a talk with the chairman today, and we're going to split some things up and make it look a little bit different going forward. And if we feel that we've resolved any of these, we put them in as actually a recommendation to remove it from the register instead of just taking it out, so you guys actually are aware of what's there and what's not. Other than that, I'm happy to take it as read and take any questions.
Right.
It's been a long time. I can't even remember how long now that we've had a lot of people signing, and we're going to do something about signing. And to a lay person, it seems like, okay, put 3 names on the bank account. Let's get why's the delay?
Through you, Mr. Chair. What audit says is signing is not in practicality what it is. It's like if we want to pay the bills, then Louise is on there as a signatory because she does the file processing and uploading. And as part of uploading it, the way our banking is currently set up, the first authorization comes from the person that uploads it. So then I look through the file and I'll be the one that ticks it off and says it can be paid, or Greg will. And same with our payroll and stuff. And we're talking with the bank at the moment. We actually use 3 different banking packages for the same accounts to be able to do different things. But we're sort of talking through with them how we can change that. And in order to stop that happening, it might mean we needed more signatories. So, but would you call them a signatory if they could just upload? And the answer to that would be no. So that's why it's there so long. It's like the practical nature of what the banking software we use can do. But we are trying to make that one go away, because you would think it would be an easy fix.
So on the water valuation matter, with that first item, as I read this, we haven't got updated unit costs for the 2023 valuation.
Mr. Chair, we did get updated unit costs, but the valuation had to be done by the end of June, and it was based on March costs, and Greg can correct me if I'm wrong here, and then we got the June costs, but not in time for that valuation. It was going to cause them to rework everything, and it wasn't going to be timely. Would you like to add anything to that, Greg?
So to update it would have, so we use March costs. Is there a material difference between the March costs and the June costs?
It was less than 2%.
Really? You've sometimes got to wonder about the auditors. Because so my notes were concerned that at our next rate revaluation, I've seen this with clients where they don't do a proper revaluation, and then your next revaluation comes in and you get an almighty double whack. And so that was concerning me, that our risk of our future valuations was going to be a much greater increase in what we've done. Is anyone here that knows where the open drains and overflow paths are on our land or on other land?
We'll find it out.
Does it make sense, Steve, that a big chunk of that would be on private land, as you understand?
Definitely overland.
Yeah.
You can have public drains going through private land.
Yeah. Which they're not ours to value.
A lot are on our berms, swales
on the edge of the roads. Yeah. Then okay, so that would be us. Yeah, it's I find this this point is also strange. It's got a mix of so asset accounting is different from the valuation for insurance. They're not linked, and yet there's an implication in this point from the auditors that they're linked. This building, I don't know what this building's worth, but let's say it's worth, it might be worth $2 million for accounting reasons. But the valuation for insurance might be $4 million. That's a replacement, not the depreciated cost. So we would usually get separate insurance valuations. So I'm a bit mystified as to where that one is going. The other one, the Te Mata Arawai and new water regulator. Again, I'm struggling with the auditor's view on future compliance. It's hard enough to keep track of what they've just decided and requiring of us, let alone trying to guess what they might decide in the future, although they will have indicated some stuff. I think it's really important, not so much for this annual report that they're commenting on, but it is really important for your LTP process to have a clear understanding of assumptions. The assumptions, unfortunately, we're supposed to come to this and haven't. But the assumptions in the LTP do make a difference. If you assume a 5% increase as a result of compliance, then your rates requirement goes up. If you assume no compliance, then your rates don't go up. The assumption defines budget. And so I think it is really important that a lot of thought is given into what these compliance, what the direction of compliance is and the extent to which you need to budget for that in your LTPs. And that's in a number of spaces when we get to that stage. I just wanted to say that. The other thing, the next item on page 74 are around major projects reporting. I'm reasonably happy with the reporting this committee has been getting on major projects because we're focused on the risk. These comments from the auditors are about focusing on the progress of that, which I expect to be part of your committee process. If I go back to when we did Balclutha CBD, we had some nice information coming through to this committee because of the risks around that project. And we did get to see the S graphs that showed the spend. So the spend starts slowly as you do the planning, and then it rockets up, and then there's a tail on it before you finish the project. And we're tracking a forecast spend against an actual spend. And that was a really good way to graphically see how the progress is. So I agree with the auditor's point that we're not getting it at any other committee, that there needs to be that progress reporting, particularly when we've got the risks around financial risk and delivery risk that I report for this committee here. So just make that statement. With that, no other comments. Someone can move in second. Thanks. Thank you, Ken. And thank you. Someone else, please. John. Favour. Against, carried. And that takes us to our work plan, page 78.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the only thing to note about the work plan is, as the Chair had already alluded to, the assumptions, engagement letter and draft consultation, the council for the long-term plan have been deferred. We're currently in the process of implementing a new budgeting system in a pretty fast sort of manner within a 2-month time period. It's going really well, but you know, it is going really well, but we're just not in a position to get numbers out just yet. And as for the Deloitte engagement letter, I've spoken with audit yesterday again about that, and they've actually sent through a draft which came through last night that I haven't read yet, but I'll send that through to Steve and Stephen to read. And they are having a chat with the Office of the Auditor General tomorrow at 12, because the draft they've sent through has no indication of fee in it, and they don't know if they're going to be discussing fees tomorrow or not. They tell me that the OAG have been very silent on the matter to date. So hopefully I can provide an update after that. They're going to let me know on Monday what their discussion's about. Yeah, other than that, I'll take the work program as read.
Just on the insurance renewal, when is the insurance renewal date? Is it the end of June?
Yes, it is at this stage, but I'm waiting to hear back how much of a drama it is to change it, because we talked about bringing it forward so we had more time to discuss it before you had to worry about the fact that it was way more expensive than we budgeted.
And I have every expectation that price increases will make it more expensive again. And so I was just thinking about making sure we've got enough time to consider all that. Particularly, you've been good to have that in the LTP, rather than being the first bill you get after the LTP is adopted. So with that, no other comments? Those in favour, start again. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Bruce B. Those in favour, those against, carried. Steve was hoping to adopt this outside of going in committee, but you said otherwise. Just minutes.
No, I haven't.
No,
Sorry.
just minutes.
Oh, it was, but it was the problem with Deloitte, isn't it? They don't like things.
We're not taking it out of public, are we? We're just
Oh,
receiving.
No, that's fine.
That's,
So there's no reason why you can't do it.
Yeah,
But that's the whole thing. You can do it always if it's just minutes.
Yeah.
That's what you want to do.
yeah, because otherwise, yeah.
That's why the resolution's there, isn't it? If required. But otherwise you don't have to.
Yeah, so what's the resolution to?
It will be that the risk insurance company, I think along the lines of agrees to move the public risk insurance minutes into the public session, and then there'll be another meeting.
We're not moving
No.
the minutes into the public session.
No, Mr. Chairman, you just have to go to page 2 of, all you're doing is taking the public excluded recommendation.
Yeah.
And doing that in open.
Yeah, so we move the recommendation into open.
Yes.
All you're doing is creating a recommendation, which is the same recommendation, just doing it now.
Yeah.
So if, and that's all you need to do. So it just means that the minute secretary would take that recommendation and you would read it out now anyway, get your movement second.
The Risk Insurance Committee received the public excluded minutes of the Risk Insurance Committee meeting held on the 12th of October 2023. I move that. Seconded by Brian. Are those in favour? Right. It's carried. Closed.